The first thing to understand is that climate change doesn't arrive like a sudden storm for birds. It creeps in quietly, shifting seasons just enough to pull the ground out from under lives that evolve on perfect timing. Imagine depending on a single week each year for food, nesting or migration, and that week suddenly moves. That's where this story begins, with birds that are doing everything right and still losing. Take the Atlantic puffin, a bird famous for its bright beak and comic looks, but built for precision. Puffins raise their chicks almost entirely on small fish like sand eels. As ocean temperatures rise, those fish move farther north or dive deeper into cooler water. Puffin parents return to their burrows with beaks full of the wrong prey, fish that are too big, too scarce, or too low in nutrition. Chicks wait, energy drains, and entire colonies falter. It's not overfishing alone, and it's not predators. It's the ocean itself changing the rules mid-game. High above the Andes lives the yellow-eared parrot, once thought to be nearly extinct. This bird depends almost entirely on wax palm trees for nesting. Climate change pushes suitable palm habitat higher up the mountains, but the mountains eventually run out. As temperatures rise, storms intensify, and palms struggle to regenerate, the parrots are left with nowhere to breed. Conservation efforts brought them back from the edge, but climate change is tightening that edge again, turning recovery into a race against altitude. Far to the south, the emperor penguin faces a problem that looks deceptively simple: melting ice. These penguins breed on stable sea ice, timing their entire reproductive cycle around its persistence. When ice breaks up too early, chicks that haven't yet grown waterproof feathers are forced into freezing water. Colonies can fail in a single bad year. What's terrifying is that these aren't isolated events anymore. They're becoming patterns, and some models suggest large portions of emperor penguin populations could disappear within this century. In North America, the golden-cheeked warbler tells a quieter but equally alarming story. This small songbird breeds only in central Texas, relying on mature ash-juniper trees for nesting. Climate change brings hotter summers, prolonged droughts, and more intense wildfires, shrinking and fragmenting this already limited habitat. When storms hit harder and heat waves last longer, nesting success drops. A bird with one breeding address doesn't get a second chance. Then there's the African grey parrot, known for intelligence that rivals young children. Climate change doesn't just affect its forests directly, it reshapes rainfall patterns, drying some regions and flooding others. Fruit trees flower at unpredictable times, leaving parrots hungry during critical breeding periods. Combined with habitat loss and trapping, climate stress pushes these birds closer to collapse. Intelligence doesn't help when the ecosystem you memorized no longer behaves the way it used to. Along the coasts of the United States, the piping plover fights a battle measured in inches. This small shorebird nests on sandy beaches just above the high tide line. Rising sea levels and stronger storms erase nests overnight. Beaches that once rebuilt naturally are now armored with seawalls and development, leaving plovers with nowhere to retreat. Each nesting season becomes a gamble against weather forecasts that grow less predictable every year. In the Arctic, the snowy owl feels climate change from both ends. Warmer temperatures alter lemming populations, their primary prey. Boom and bust cycles become more extreme, meaning some years offer plenty of food and others bring near famine. At the same time, warming tundra changes vegetation and snow cover, making hunting harder. The owl's iconic white silence hides a growing instability beneath its wings, Australia's Regent Honeyeater once filled forests with sound. Now, fewer than a few hundred remain. Climate change intensifies droughts and heat waves, stressing the eucalyptus trees that provide nectar. Flowering becomes erratic, and birds arrive at feeding grounds too early or too late. When food sources fail across large regions at once, nomadic species like the Regent Honeyeater have nowhere left to roam. On tropical islands, the Hawaiian Honeycreepers face a threat that climbs uphill with the heat. Warmer temperatures allow mosquitoes carrying avian malaria to survive at higher elevations. Birds that once found refuge in cooler mountain forests are now exposed to diseases they have no resistance to. Climate change isn't killing these birds directly. It's opening the door for something else to finish the job. Finally, consider the albatross, masters of the open ocean. Stronger and shifting wind patterns force these birds to fly farther and burn more energy to find food. Chicks wait longer between meals, and parents return exhausted. Plastic pollution worsens the problem, but climate change sets the background stress that makes every other threat more deadly. When endurance athletes are forced to run longer races with less fuel, something eventually breaks. What connects all these birds isn't just vulnerability, it's timing. Climate change disrupts the invisible calendars written into their biology. Migration, breeding, flowering, ice formation, insect hatches, everything slips out of sync. Birds don't fail because they stop trying. They fail because the world they evolved for is no longer consistent. And the uncomfortable truth is that birds are early warning systems. They're showing us in real time what happens when stability disappears. The question isn't whether climate change affects wildlife. It's how long we can ignore the birds before we realize they've been warning us about our own future all along.